Captain Jake Morrison was drinking his morning coffee when the emergency signal came through. The red lights flashed across the bridge of his colony ship, and the alarm made a loud sound that woke everyone on board. Jake put down his cup and walked quickly to the main screen. "What is it, Danny?" Jake asked his communication officer. Danny Clark looked worried. His face was pale as he read the message. "Sir, we got a message from Earth. Admiral Lisa Kane wants to talk to you right now. She says it's urgent." Jake felt his stomach drop. Messages from Earth took weeks to reach them out here. If they were getting a real-time call, something big was happening. Put her through. The screen changed, and Admiral Kane's face appeared. She looked tired, like she had not slept in days. Behind her, Jake could see people running around in the Earth Command Center. "Jake, I need you to sit down." Kane said, "What I'm about to tell you will change everything." Jake sat in his captain's chair. His crew gathered around him, all looking scared. "What happened, Admiral?" 3 days ago, we received our first official contact from aliens," Kane said. "They call themselves the Galactic Council. They've been watching us for years." The bridge went silent. Jake felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. "Aliens?" he whispered. 12 different alien races," Kane continued. "They've been ruling the galaxy for over 10,000 years. And Jake, they're not happy with us." Kane's image flickered as she sent them a data file. "I'm sending you everything we know. The Council says we're expanding too fast. They think we're dangerous. They want us to stop all expansion beyond our current 17 star systems." Jake's mind raced. His ship was heading to establish a new colony on Kepler 442b. They had 3,000 colonists on board, all ready to start new lives. What do? "They want us to do? They want us to submit to their authority," Kane said. "We have 30 days to agree to become their subjects. If we don't, they'll use force to make us comply." The crew started talking all at once. Jake raised his hand for silence. "How many ships do they have?" "Thousands," Kane replied. "Maybe tens of thousands. Their technology is far ahead of ours in some ways." "But Jake, that's not the worst part." "What's the worst part?" "They're already here. A massive alien fleet is sitting at the edge of our solar system right now. Their ambassador is waiting for our answer." Jake felt cold. He looked at his crew, all good people who had signed up for a peaceful mission to build a new world. Now they were caught in the middle of something that could mean war. "Admiral, what are our orders?" Kane was quiet. "For a moment. I'm recalling all ships to Earth. We need everyone back home." "You want us to abandon the colony mission?" "For now, yes." "Jake, we're not just talking about your ship. Every human vessel beyond the core systems is being recalled. We need to think about this carefully." After Kane signed off, Jake called his senior staff together. Commander Betty Lewis, his second in command, looked angry. "We can't just give up everything we've worked for." "What choice do we have?" asked Dr. Alan Stone, the mission scientist. "If they have thousands of ships, we can't fight them." Jake walked to the window that showed the stars. Out there somewhere, alien ships were waiting. Alien beings who thought humans were too dangerous to be free. "What do you think they'll do to us if we submit?" "Probably treat us like pets," Betty said. "Keep us in our little corner of space and never let us grow." "But if we fight, we'll lose," Dr. Stone argued. "They've been doing this for 10,000 years. We've only been in space for a few hundred." Jake thought about the colonists sleeping in their pods below. They had left Earth to build something new, to be free. Now aliens wanted to take that freedom away before they even had a chance to use it. "Set course for Earth," Jake ordered. "Maximum speed." As the ship turned around, Jake kept thinking about what Kane had said. The aliens thought humans were dangerous. Maybe they were right. Humans had always been fighters. They had survived ice ages, plagues, and wars. They had never been good at backing down on Earth. President Helen Carter was having the same thoughts. She sat in the White House Situation Room with her advisors, all arguing about what to do. "We have to negotiate," said Secretary of State Nancy Brooks. "We can't fight the whole galaxy." "We can't just surrender either," argued General Pete Davis. "Once we submit, we'll never be free again." President Carter looked at the reports spread across the table. Pictures of alien ships, analysis of their technology, and estimates of their military power. It all pointed to the same conclusion. Humanity was outmatched. "What if we don't answer?" she asked quietly. The room went silent. Everyone stared at her. "Ma'am," General Davis asked, "what if we just don't respond to their ultimatum? What if we stay quiet and see what they do?" "That's not an option," Brooks said. "They'll see silence as defiance." "Maybe defiance is exactly what we need to show them," Carter replied. Meanwhile, at the edge of the solar system, Ambassador Kethfor waited on his massive ship. The reptilian alien had never seen a species react this way before. Usually, younger races begged for mercy or tried to negotiate. But the humans had gone completely silent. Kethfor's ship was the size of a small city. Around it, hundreds of other alien vessels waited. Ships from 12 different species, all united under the Council's banner. They had never failed to bring a species into line. Still no response from the humans. Kethfor asked his aide. "Nothing, sir." Complete radio silence. Kethfor's yellow eyes narrowed. In his long life, he had overseen the subjugation of dozens of species. None had ever simply ignored the Council's demands. It was disturbing. "Perhaps they're just afraid," his aide suggested. "No," Kethfor said slowly. "Fear makes creatures predictable. This silence is something else." As the days passed, the silence from humanity continued. No diplomatic messages, no pleas for mercy, no attempts to negotiate. The humans had simply stopped talking to the galaxy. But while the galaxy heard nothing, humanity was far from idle. In secret facilities across human space, weapons were being built, ships were being prepared, and plans were being made that would shock the galaxy. The silence wasn't surrender. It was the calm before the storm. The silence from Earth confused the aliens, but it gave humanity exactly what they needed: time. While the Galactic Council waited for an answer, humans across the galaxy were working harder than they had ever worked before. Captain Jake Morrison's ship reached Earth orbit after 2 weeks of travel. As he looked down at the blue planet, he saw something that made his heart race. Hundreds of ships were gathered around Earth, more than he had ever seen in one place. Colony ships, cargo vessels, mining ships, and even small passenger craft, all coming home. "Look at that," Commander Betty Lewis said, pointing at the screen. "They're all here." Jake nodded. Every human ship in the galaxy was returning to Earth. To the aliens watching, it must have looked like humanity was giving up. But Jake knew better. This wasn't surrender. This was preparation. When Jake's ship docked at Luna Station, he was met by Admiral Kane herself. She looked even more tired than before, but there was something new in her eyes: determination. "Welcome home, Jake," she said. "How are your colonists?" "Scared but ready," Jake replied. "What's really happening here, Admiral?" Kane led him through the station's corridors. Everywhere, Jake saw people working. Engineers were modifying ships, soldiers were training, and scientists were studying alien technology. "We're getting ready," Kane said simply. "Come on, I'll show you something." They took a shuttle down to Earth, to a military base Jake had never seen before. It was built into a mountain, with tunnels that seemed to go on forever. Inside, he saw weapons that looked like nothing humans had ever built before. "My God," Jake whispered. "How long have you been working on this?" 50 years, Kane replied. "Ever since we first detected alien signals. We knew this day would come." Dr. Alan Stone joined them as they walked deeper into the facility. The scientist was carrying a tablet full of data. "Admiral, I've finished analyzing the alien communication protocols. I think I understand how their technology works." Kane stopped. "Walking. Tell me." "They're incredibly advanced, but in a specific way," Stone explained. "They've perfected technologies that we're still learning about. But they all think the same way. They follow patterns, rules, systems that have worked for thousands of years. What does that mean for us?" Jake asked. Stone smiled for the first time since the crisis began. "It means they're not expecting us to do anything new. They think they know how technology works. They think they know how war works. But we might surprise them." They entered a large room filled with computers and screens. Scientists and engineers were working at every station. In the center of the room stood a woman Jake didn't recognize. "Jake, meet Colonel Lisa Park," Kane said. "She's in charge of Project Darkstar." Colonel Park was a small woman with sharp eyes and calloused hands. She looked like someone who had built things her whole life. "Captain Morrison, good to meet you. I've heard about your colony ship. We're going to need it." "Need it for what?" "To carry the new weapons," Park said. "Your ship is big enough to hold our prototype systems. We're going to turn colony ships into warships." Jake felt a chill. "Are we really going to fight them?" "We're going to be ready to fight them," Kane corrected. "But first, we need to understand them better." Over the next week, Jake learned more about the aliens than he had ever wanted to know. The Galactic Council was made up of 12 different species, each with their own strengths and weaknesses. The reptilian Zephyrians were the leaders, proud and aggressive. The crystalline Vorthik were mathematical geniuses who planned everything perfectly. The aquatic Shatari were peaceful, but followed the stronger species. And so on. Dr. Stone had been studying them all. "The thing is," he explained to Jake, "they've been working together for so long that they think like one big organism. They all follow the same strategies, the same tactics. They've forgotten how to be unpredictable." "And humans are unpredictable?" Jake asked. Stone laughed. "Jake, we're the most unpredictable species in the galaxy. We fight wars with honor codes and then use dirty tricks to win. We create beautiful art and then use it to hide weapons. We make peace treaties and then break them when we need to. The aliens have no idea what we're capable of." Meanwhile, across human space, other preparations were happening. On New Terra, Governor Sam Turner was turning his peaceful farming colony into a fortress. The colonists were digging bunkers and learning to use weapons. Children were being evacuated to underground shelters while their parents prepared to fight. "I never thought I'd see farmers learning to be soldiers," Turner said to his deputy, Maria Rodriguez. "I never thought I'd see the day when aliens would threaten our children," Rodriguez replied. "But here we are." On Haven Prime, the story was the same. Mining colonies were being turned into weapons factories. Trading posts were becoming military bases. Every human settlement was preparing for war, even though they had no idea if war would come. The aliens watching from their ships saw none of this. They saw humans returning to their home systems, and they thought it was compliance. They saw reduced activity on the outer colonies, and they thought it was submission. They had no idea that humanity was preparing for the fight of their lives. President Carter spent her days in meetings with world leaders, generals, and scientists. The decision to remain silent had been hers, as she knew history would judge her for it. "Are we doing the right thing?" she asked General Davis during one late-night meeting. "Ma'am, I don't know if it's right, Davis replied, but I know it's human. We've never been good at kneeling. Even when kneeling might save lives? Especially then. As the 30-day deadline approached, the preparations reached a fever pitch. Colonel Park's teams were working around the clock to install new weapons on every ship they could find. The weapons were unlike anything humans had built before, based on theories that Earth's smartest scientists had been working on for decades. Will they work? Jake asked as he watched technicians install a quantum disruptor on his colony ship. Honestly, I don't know, Park replied. We've never tested them against alien technology. But they're based on principles the aliens have never seen before. That might be enough. Dr. Stone was working with teams of linguists and psychologists, trying to understand how the different alien species thought. If we have to fight them, he said, we need to know how they'll react. The Zephyrians are proud. They'll fight harder. If they think we're disrespecting them. The Vorthek are logical. They'll retreat if they think the cost is too high. The Chitauri are followers. They'll switch sides if they think we're winning. And if we're not winning? Jake asked. Stone was quiet for a moment. Then we make sure the cost is so high that they'll never try this again. On the alien ships, Ambassador Kethver was growing more concerned each day. The human silence was unprecedented in his experience. Species that were planning to submit usually sent messages begging for mercy. Species that were planning to fight usually sent threats or demands. What are they thinking? He asked his military advisor, General Vorthek Prime. Perhaps they are paralyzed by fear, the crystalline alien replied. Many primitive species react this way when confronted with superior force. Or perhaps they are planning something, Kethver said quietly. What could they possibly be planning? Our intelligence shows they have fewer than 1,000 ships total. We have brought 5,000 to this system alone. Kethver looked at the blue planet on his screen. Something about the human silence bothered him. In his long career, he had learned to trust his instincts. And his instincts were telling him that the humans were not afraid. They were angry. As the 30th day dawned, humanity's silence continued. No message came from Earth. No diplomatic vessel approached the alien fleet. The humans had made their choice, and it wasn't the choice the Galactic Council had expected. It was the choice to fight. The 30th day came and went with no word from humanity. Ambassador Kethver stared at his communication console, waiting for a message that never came. In his 200 years of service to the Galactic Council, he had never seen anything like this. Sir, his aide said nervously, the deadline has passed. What are your orders? Kethver's yellow eyes narrowed. Send a message to the Council. Tell them the humans have chosen silence. Request permission to begin corrective action. The response came within hours. The Council had voted unanimously to authorize military force. General Vorthek Prime, the crystalline commander of the Council's combined fleet, was given full authority to bring humanity into compliance. This is unfortunate, Vorthek Prime said as he addressed his commanders. The humans seemed like a species with potential, but defiance cannot be tolerated. 3 separate fleets moved toward human space. The first, led by Zephyrian warships, headed for New Terra. The second, commanded by Vorthek crystal ships, moved toward Haven Prime. The third, a mixed force of smaller species, approached Europa Station. Commander Tim Brooks watched the alien ships approach his small defense station at the edge of the New Terra system. His 12 patrol boats looked like toys compared to the massive alien warships. But Brooks had been waiting for this moment for 30 days. All ships, this is Brooks, he said into his radio. Remember what we learned in training. Hit fast, hit hard, and don't give them time to think. The alien fleet was impressive. 50 massive ships, each one the size of a city block. They moved in perfect formation, their shields glowing blue in the darkness of space. The lead ship was 3 times larger than anything humans had ever built. "Attention, human vessels," came a voice from the alien fleet. "This is Commander Zethkar of the Zephyrian Navy. You are ordered to surrender immediately. Lower your weapons and prepare to be boarded." Brooks looked at his crew. They were scared, but they were ready. "Open a channel." "This is Commander Brooks of the Human Defense Force. We've got a message for you." "State your message." Brooks smiled grimly. "We're not interested in your peace." The words had barely left his mouth when the shooting started. The human ships moved unlike anything the aliens had ever seen. Instead of staying in formation, they scattered like leaves in the wind. Instead of trying to match the aliens' firepower, they darted in and out of the enemy fleet like angry wasps. The first alien ship to die was a Zephyrian cruiser. A human patrol boat, no bigger than a shuttle, rammed straight into its engine section. The explosion lit up space like a new star. "Impossible," Commander Zethkar hissed. "They're too primitive for suicide tactics." But the humans weren't done. Their ships carried weapons the aliens had never seen before. Quantum disruptors that tore through shields like paper. Zero-point energy bombs that made matter itself explode. And most shocking of all, the humans seemed to know exactly where. To hit. Dr. Stone's research had paid off. The human ships targeted the joints between different alien technologies, the places where one species' shields interfaced with another's weapons. The perfect coordination that had made the Council strong for thousands of years became a weakness. "They know our systems," Zethkar realized with horror. "They've been studying us." Brooks watched as his small fleet tore through the alien formation. 3 more human ships were destroyed, but they had taken out 8 alien vessels. The odds were still terrible, but they were fighting. "All ships, this is Brooks," he called out. "We're not going to win this fight, but we're going to make them remember it." The battle for New Terra lasted 6 hours. When it was over, only 2 human ships remained. But the alien fleet had lost 23 vessels, and the survivors were badly damaged. The same story played out at Haven Prime and Europa Station. Human forces, outnumbered 10 to 1, fought like demons. They used tactics the aliens had never seen, weapons the aliens didn't understand, and a ferocity that shocked the galaxy. At Europa Station, Captain Jake Morrison led the final defense. His colony ship, now armed with the most advanced weapons humanity could build, faced down an entire alien squadron. "This is Captain Morrison aboard the colony ship New Horizons," he broadcast to the alien fleet. "You came here to make us kneel. We have a different idea." The New Horizons was not built for war, but Colonel Park's teams had transformed it into something the aliens had never seen. A ship that could create new weapons as it fought, adapting to whatever the aliens threw at it. The battle was fierce. The aliens threw everything they had at the human ship. Energy weapons that could melt planets, missiles that could track targets across star systems, and boarding parties of the finest alien warriors. But the humans had something the aliens didn't. Understand, the willingness to sacrifice everything for freedom. When the New Horizons engines were destroyed, Morrison's crew rigged them to explode. When the shields failed, they used the ship's hull as a weapon. When the weapons ran out, they fought with tools and bare hands. "Sir, Morrison's communication?" Officer said, "We're receiving a message from Earth." "Put it through." Admiral Kane's face appeared on the screen. She looked proud and sad at the same time. "Jake, we're seeing the battle reports. You and your crew are heroes." "We're just doing what we have to do," Morrison replied as explosions rocked his ship. "I know. Jake, I want you to know that your sacrifice means something. The whole galaxy is watching. They're seeing that humans don't surrender." Morrison nodded. "Tell them we don't kneel. The New Horizons' final moments were broadcast across human space. The ship, surrounded by alien vessels, made one last desperate attack. Morrison aimed his dying ship at the alien flagship and fired. Everything he had. The explosion was visible from 3 star systems away. Across the galaxy, the news of the human resistance spread like wildfire. Species that had been under Council rule for centuries watched in amazement as the humans fought back. No one had ever seen anything like it. On the Council's home world, the ruling committee met in emergency session. The reports from the human systems were disturbing. What should have been a simple police action had become a real war. How is this possible? Asked Council Leader Vorthix Supreme. Our intelligence said the humans had primitive weapons. Our intelligence was wrong, General Vorthix Prime replied. The humans have been preparing for this. They've developed weapons we've never seen before. And their tactics? Completely unpredictable. They fight like they have nothing to lose. Because they don't, said a voice from the back of the chamber. Council member Shatari Prime, representative of the aquatic species, swam forward in her water-filled suit. We offered them slavery or death. They chose death. Then we'll give them death, Vorthix Supreme said coldly. Send more ships. Destroy every human colony. Make an example of them. But other council members were not so sure. The human resistance was inspiring other species to question the council's authority. Reports were coming in of unrest on dozens of worlds. The peace that had lasted for millennia was beginning to crack. Perhaps, Shatari Prime suggested, we should reconsider our approach. There is nothing to reconsider, Vorthix Supreme replied. The humans will submit, or they will die. There is no third option. On Earth, President Carter watched the battle, reports with tears in her eyes. Brave humans were dying in the cold depths of space, fighting against impossible odds. But they were also winning something precious, the respect of the galaxy. Ma'am, General Davis said quietly, we're getting reports from across human space. The aliens are regrouping. They're bringing in more ships. Carter nodded. How many more? Thousands, maybe tens of thousands. They're not taking any chances this time. Carter looked out the window at the stars. Out there, alien fleets were gathering to destroy humanity. But they had underestimated humans once already. Maybe they would do it again. General, she said, activate the Scorched Earth Protocol. If they want a war, we'll give them one they'll never forget. As the news of the human resistance spread, something unexpected happened. Other species began to remember what it felt like to be free. The galaxy that had been quiet for so long began to stir. The Council's perfect order was beginning to crack, and the cracks were spreading faster than anyone had imagined. The galaxy was about to learn what humanity really meant by silence. Admiral Lisa Kane stood in the command center deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, watching as reports came in from across human space. The first battles were over, and while humanity had lost many ships, they had sent a message that echoed across the stars. Ma'am, her aide said, we're ready to broadcast. Kane nodded. For 30 days, humanity had been silent. Now it was time to speak. The transmission went out on every frequency the aliens used. It reached every ship in the Council's fleet, every world under their control, every species that had bowed to their rule. When Admiral Kane's face appeared on screens across the galaxy, her words were simple and clear. You asked for our response to your ultimatum, she said. Here it is. We are not your subjects. We are not your slaves. We are humans, and we bow to no one. The broadcast showed images of human colonies, human ships, human families. But it also showed the weapons humanity had built, the defenses they had prepared, the determination in their eyes. Your peace is built on fear, Kane continued. You rule because you are strong, and others are weak. But we are not weak, we are not afraid, and we will not kneel. The message ended with a simple declaration. Come and take our freedom if you can. Across the galaxy, alien leaders watched in shock. Never in 10,000 years had a species challenged the Council so directly. The humans weren't just fighting back, they were declaring war on the entire galactic order. On Earth, President Carter was meeting with her military commanders. The Scorched Earth Protocol was now in effect, and humanity was preparing for total war. General Davis, she said, what's our status? Every human world is now a fortress, Davis replied. We've evacuated civilians from the outer colonies and prepared defensive positions. If the aliens want our worlds, they'll have to pay for them. In blood, Colonel Lisa Park entered the room carrying a tablet full of data. Ma'am, I have good news and bad news. The good news is that our new weapons work better than we hoped. The bad news is that we don't have enough of them. How many ships can we arm? Carter asked. Maybe 300 with the best weapons. Another 1,000 with basic upgrades. Against what they're bringing, it won't be enough. Carter was quiet. For a moment, it doesn't have to be enough. It just has to be expensive. Meanwhile, Dr. Alan Stone was working with his research team to understand the alien response. They had intercepted Council communications and were learning about the enemies. Plans. They're bringing everything, Stone reported. Not just military ships, but occupation forces, administrative personnel, even colonists. They're planning to completely take over human space. How many ships? Admiral Kane asked. Our best estimate is 50,000 vessels, maybe more. The number was staggering. Humanity had maybe 5,000 ships total, most of them converted civilian vessels. But Kane had been thinking about this problem for weeks. They're making the same mistake they made before, she said. They're thinking like an empire. Big fleets, overwhelming force, traditional tactics. But we're not going to fight like an empire. What do you mean? Stone asked. We're going to fight like humans. The human response to the Council's massive fleet was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of meeting the aliens in big battles, human ships scattered across space like seeds in the wind. Small groups of ships would attack alien supply lines, then disappear before reinforcements could arrive. Commander Tim Brooks, one of the few survivors of the first battle, now led a group of raiders that struck at alien forces across 3 star systems. His ships never stayed in one place for long, never fought fair, and never gave the aliens a chance to use their superior numbers. The trick, Brooks explained to his pilots, is to make them angry. Angry people make mistakes. The strategy worked. The proud Zephyrian warriors, used to honorable combat, were enraged by the human hit-and-run tactics. They split their forces to chase after the human raiders, leaving their main fleet vulnerable. The crystalline Vorthok, who planned everything, mathematically found their careful strategies useless against human unpredictability. Just when they thought they understood human tactics, the humans would do something completely different. On Haven Prime, Governor Maria Rodriguez had transformed her mining colony into a trap. The aliens thought they were attacking a defenseless settlement. Instead, they found themselves fighting in tunnels and caverns that had been turned into a maze of death. They don't understand guerrilla warfare, Rodriguez explained to her fighters. They're used to enemies that fight in the open. We're going to teach them what humans learned in our wars. The battle for Haven Prime lasted 3 months. The aliens threw army after army at the human defenders, but the humans just melted away into the tunnels, only to attack from behind when the aliens least expected it. Colonel Park's engineers had done their work well. The human weapons were not just effective, they were terrifying. Quantum disruptors that made alien shields useless. Energy weapons that could cut through the strongest alien armor. And most frightening of all, weapons that adapted to whatever the aliens threw at them. How do they do it? General Vorthik Prime asked his scientists after yet another failed attack. Their technology is completely different from ours, came the reply. They don't follow the same physical laws we do. That's impossible. No, sir. It's human. The war was spreading beyond human space. Other species, inspired by humanity's resistance, began to question the Council's authority. On dozens of worlds, there were protests, riots, and even open rebellion. Shatari, the aquatic species that had always been peaceful, surprised everyone by offering to help the humans. Secret messages began reaching human commanders from across the galaxy. "We have been slaves for too long," one message read. "Show us how to be free." President Carter was in a meeting when the message arrived. She read it twice, then looked at her advisors. "They want to help us," she said quietly. "It could be a trap," General Davis warned. "Or it could be the beginning of something bigger," Carter replied. "Something the Council never expected." The Council's response was swift and brutal. Any species that showed sympathy for the humans was punished. Entire worlds were occupied by Council forces. The galaxy that had been peaceful for millennia was suddenly full of war, but the violence only made more species question the Council's rule. The humans had shown that resistance was possible. Now other species were learning that lesson too. On the Council's home world, the ruling committee met in emergency session. The reports from across the galaxy were disturbing. What had started as a simple police action against one species had become a galactic rebellion. "This is the humans' fault," Council leader Vorthik Supreme declared. "They have infected the galaxy with their defiance." "Perhaps," said Shatari Prime, "the infection was already there. The humans simply gave it a voice." "Are you questioning the Council's authority?" "I am questioning whether authority based on fear can last forever." The argument that followed split the Council down the middle. Some species wanted to crush the rebellion with overwhelming force. Others wanted to find a peaceful solution. For the first time in millennia, the Council was divided. Admiral Kane received the intelligence reports with satisfaction. The human resistance was doing more than just fighting for freedom. It was changing the entire galaxy. "We're not just fighting for ourselves anymore," she told her staff. "We're fighting for every species that has ever wanted to be free." The war entered a new phase. Human ships, now supported by rebels from other species, began striking at the heart of the Council's power. The aliens' perfect order was crumbling, and the cracks were spreading faster than anyone could stop them. On Earth, children learned new songs about the brave humans fighting in space. But they also learned something more important, that freedom was worth fighting for, no matter what the cost. The galaxy would never be the same again. 2 years after the first shots were fired, the war had changed everything. The galaxy that had been ruled by the Council for 10,000 years was now burning with rebellion. And at the center of it all was a small blue planet that had refused to kneel. Admiral Lisa Kane stood on the bridge of the battleship Indomitable, watching as the largest fleet in human history approached the Council's capital world. Around her ship, thousands of vessels flew together, not just human ships, but vessels from dozens of species that had joined the rebellion. "Admiral," her communication officer said, "we're receiving a message from the planet." "Put it through." The face that appeared on the screen was that of Council leader Vorthik Supreme, the crystalline being who had ruled the galaxy for over a century. He looked tired and afraid. "Admiral Kane," he said, "I request a meeting to discuss terms." Kane smiled grimly. "The time for discussion is over. You had your chance to talk when you sent your ultimatum. Now we're here to give you ours." The battle for Nexus Prime, the Council's capital world, was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The planet's defenses were legendary. Energy shields that could stop entire fleets, weapons that could destroy moons, and an army of the finest. Warriors from 12 different species. But the humans had learned a lot in 2 years of war. They knew how to fight the Council's perfect order. They knew how to turn the alien strength against them. Captain Julie Hayes led the strike force that broke through the planet's shields. Her ship, the Freedom's Edge, was small and fast, designed for exactly this kind of mission. Behind her flew ships from a dozen different species, all united by one simple idea: freedom. "All ships, this is Hayes," she called into her radio. "Remember what we're fighting for. Not conquest, not revenge, but the right to choose our own path." The planetary defenses were impressive, but they had been designed to fight the old kind of war. The kind where armies met armies, and the stronger side won. The humans had taught the galaxy a new kind of fighting. Hayes's ships scattered like leaves in a storm, each one taking a different path to the surface. The alien defenses couldn't target them all. For every ship they destroyed, 3 more got through. On the planet's surface, the Council's forces were waiting, but they found themselves fighting an enemy they didn't understand. Human soldiers fought alongside Chitauri warriors, Zephyrian rebels, and even some Vorthic who had turned against their own leaders. The war had changed everyone. Species that had been enemies for centuries were now fighting side by side. The Council's system of divide and rule had collapsed when faced with humanity's simple message: all beings deserve to be free. Colonel Lisa Park led her engineers through the Council's main command center. The building was a marvel of alien technology, but Park's team knew how to turn any technology into a weapon. "Plant the charges here and here," she ordered. "When this place goes up, it'll send a message to every tyrant in the galaxy." But the real battle wasn't happening in the streets or in space. It was happening in the Council chambers themselves, where representatives from across the galaxy had gathered to decide the future. President Helen Carter stepped into the chamber for the two. First time, flanked by human guards and rebel leaders from other species. The sight that greeted her was remarkable. Beings from hundreds of different worlds, all gathered in one place, all demanding change. "Honored representatives," Carter began, her voice carrying across the vast chamber, "we are here today because the old system has failed. For too long, the strong have ruled the weak. For too long, fear has been the foundation of peace." Vorthic Supreme stood up from his crystal throne. "You humans have destroyed the order that kept this galaxy stable for millennia. Do you have any idea what chaos you have unleashed?" "Yes," Carter replied simply. "We call it freedom." The debates that followed would reshape galactic civilization. Some species wanted to replace the Council with human rule. Others wanted to return to the old ways. But Carter had a different vision. "We didn't fight this war to become the new masters," she said. "We fought it so that no one would be master of anyone else." The proposal that emerged from those debates was revolutionary. A galactic alliance where each species was equal, where decisions were made by consent rather than force, where the rights of individuals mattered more than the power of governments. Not everyone agreed. General Vorthic Prime, the military commander who had led the war against humanity, stood trial for his crimes. It was the first time in galactic history that a Council leader had been held accountable for their actions. "I was following orders," he said in his defense. "So were the soldiers who murdered civilians," replied the human prosecutor. "Following orders is not an excuse for evil." The trial established new principles of galactic law, principles based on human ideas of justice, equality, and individual rights. The galaxy would never again allow the strong to prey on the weak without consequence. Dr. Alan Stone, now serving as humanity's chief scientist, worked with researchers from across the galaxy to establish new institutions. universities where beings from different species could learn together, research centers where the best minds could solve problems that affected everyone. The council kept species separate, Stone explained to a group of young beings from different worlds. They were afraid that if we worked together, we might become stronger than them. They were right to be afraid. Admiral Kane found herself in an unexpected position, commander of the Alliance's first integrated fleet. Ships from dozens of species, all working together to protect the new order they had built. "It's not perfect," she admitted to her staff. "There are still conflicts, still problems to solve. But for the first time in galactic history, we're solving them together." The transformation wasn't easy. Some species had been enemies for so long that peace seemed impossible. But humanity's example showed that even the most bitter conflicts could be resolved when both sides chose to try. Commander Tim Brooks, the pilot who had fired the first shots of the war, now served as an ambassador. His job was to help former enemies learn to trust each other. "The hardest part," he said, "isn't forgiving your enemies. It's learning to trust your friends." Years passed, and the new galactic order grew stronger. Trade flourished between worlds that had never spoken to each other before. Art and culture flowed freely across species barriers. Children grew up learning about beings they would never have met under the old system. On Earth, memorials were built to honor those who had died in the war. Captain Jake Morrison's name was carved in stone alongside thousands of others who had given their lives for freedom. But the real memorial was the galaxy itself, transformed from a prison into a community. President Carter, now elderly, stood before the Alliance Council for the last time as Earth's representative. Around her sat beings from hundreds of worlds, all equals in the government they had built together. "When the Council first contacted us," she said, "they offered us peace through submission. We chose to fight for something better. Today, we have that something better. A peace built on respect, cooperation, and freedom." The applause that followed came from voices unlike any heard on Earth, the sounds of 100 different species celebrating together. The boy named Danny Carter, the president's grandson, played in the gardens outside the Alliance building with his friends. Among them were young Zephyrians, Shatari, Vorthik, and beings from species that had never had names in human languages. They played games that mixed traditions from across the galaxy, laughed at jokes that spanned species barriers, and dreamed of a future that none of their grandparents could have imagined. "Grandma," Danny asked that evening, "why did the aliens want us to be quiet?" Carter smiled as she tucked him into bed. "Because they were afraid of what we might say." "What did we say?" "We said that everyone deserves to be free." Outside his window, the stars shone down on a galaxy transformed. Ships from 100 worlds traveled peacefully through space. Children learned and played together, despite being born light years apart. And somewhere in the vast darkness, new species were just beginning to reach for the stars, knowing that when they did, they would find friends waiting for them. The galaxy that had once demanded silence now rang with the voices of the free. And at the center of it all was the lesson humanity had taught through 2 years of war and decades of peace, that freedom was worth any sacrifice, and that no one, no matter how powerful, had the right to demand that others kneel. The war was over. The real work of building a better galaxy had just begun.